All right, I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Page County School Board.
Mr. Gabriel?
Yes.
Mr. Panger?
Yes.
Dr. Panger?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Langston?
Please pause for a minute of silence as we prepare for the meeting tonight. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Fox, do you have any agenda changes or additions?
I do not.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as. Second.
A motion by Mrs. Sullivan Sweet, a second by Mr. Painter to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Panger?
Yes.
Dr. Panger?
Yes.
Mr. Gabriel?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we certify personnel matters discussed in closed session this evening, section 2.2-3711A1.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Dr. Painter to certify personnel matters discussed in closed session.
Mr. Panger?
Yes.
Dr. Panger?
Yes.
Mr. Gabriel?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes. Yes. No citizen comment. The July minutes are attached for review. We'll approve them next month or next meeting. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Painter to approve the consent agenda.
Dr. Panger?
Yes.
Mr. Gabriel?
Yes.
Mr. Panger?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Seacrest, monthly financials.
Yes, good evening, board members. You all have been provided the monthly financials for July, where total expenditures and revenue were $3,374,182.46. We did also balance to the treasurer. The local match calculation is attached. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you. Dr. Johnson,
Yes,
Human Resources and Business Update.
good evening, members of the board. Tonight, we just have a couple things we wanted to give an update to you and to the public. First, just a slight recap on our new teacher orientation. We held that program on Monday and Tuesday. Many of our administrative team were involved as presenters. Our admin had an opportunity to join the staff in lunch. We annual tradition of showering our new hires with gifts, and we have a lot of fun with that, with spirit wear and things that are related to each school that the new folks are going to. Currently, we have 48 new teachers in place. We are very, very excited about that. You asked me 2 weeks ago if this was a large group, and I think this is 4 or 5 more than it was then. Literally, Friday and Monday, we were still securing some folks. Not all of them are fully licensed. We have a handful that are signing on as long-term sub as they finish some criteria to become provisionally licensed. So the goal is that of these 48, the hope is that we can have them all licensed and embark in a career with us. Still today, we have 3 vacancies, secondary math, secondary special ed, and then a middle elementary split position for school counseling. But we have a good plan in place for those positions as well. So I'm very encouraged by that. And it has to be said that our administrators, school level administrators, have worked really hard in a busy time when they're trying to get the school year up and running, and they're trying to focus on things at hand. And by the way, they're still interviewing and looking. So well done to the admin team. They did a very good job done. We're pleased about that. Any questions on the HR side there?
I think when we looked at all the substitutes that we've gotten, a lot of professional people outside of education that's willing to come in and help us.
Yeah.
I thought that was tremendous.
We're very encouraged by that. We've had 2 substitute in services in the last several weeks, about 3-4 weeks, and we have another one that we're going to hold soon. We've had a few people that couldn't make it, and we're going to do another blast. Social media has really helped with that. So we'll do another blast and have a third, and we're currently at about 70 subs, we believe. So if we could pick up more, it would be great. And the operations side of things, I've been working with Corey Turner, that heads up our bus garage, and with Diana Griffith, that heads up transportation, and we've been exploring the topic of electric buses. There is a program called the Clean School Bus Program, and there are grants available in which to pursue or to begin the use of electric buses. Initially, we were very unsure about this. Corey and I did some homework. Corey went through some PD on the topic, spoke to some salesmen, and we weren't sure that these typically will get about 100 miles to a charge, and that's in an ideal situation. In our terrain, probably far from ideal when you're thinking about pull on an electric battery and motor. But the more we've explored it, the more we think it probably is worth giving it a try. And so I gave you some information there. We would qualify under a couple of categories, actually, for grant money. We are rural, small area income and poverty guidelines, and so that puts us towards the front of the line in terms of grant money. It seems, and this is in speaking with a specialist on this topic, it seems that if we pursued 271 passengers, that we would probably, and the installation of the charging station, that we would probably have to incur about $25,000 out of our own budget, and likely end up with 2 buses. One of the questions that Dr. Fox asked me was, do we have to get 71 passengers? Could we get smaller? Could we get vehicles that might be a little more user-friendly for other activities? And I don't have that answer yet, but we're trying to inquire about that. In order to receive a grant, what you have to do is eliminate 1 diesel bus per 1 electric that you get, and it has to be 2010 or older. We have a number of buses on our lot that are not really usable or user-friendly anymore, that we would gladly declare out of our fleet in exchange for a new 71-passenger electric bus. And again, the grant would include the funds for the infrastructure. We've learned that you have to have 3-phase electricity for the charging station. We don't have that at the bus garage currently, and Corey's best estimate is that would probably cost $7,000 or $8,000 to set up. However, we do have it at Luray High. And one location, we worry about Luray High because of parking space and coming and going of students and families and other transportation vehicles. But we also have it out back. We have it out at our softball facility. And so it might be that we could have camera surveillance out there and a pad, and probably for a whole lot less, Corey's estimating maybe $1,000, we could be prepared to charge and maintain those buses there. And it's just a stone's throw from the bus garage. So that would be an option there. I mentioned we'll get about 100 miles per charge. We were discussing how user-friendly such buses would be. And they would actually, I met with Diana, we looked at routes, we looked at mileage, and they would serve us well in things such as a town of Luray route. or the daily trip between Luray High to the tech center or Page County High to the tech center. The thing we have to guard against is the further out we get them, the more the dead miles affect the pull on the battery. So if we use them too far south, say Page, Shenandoah, then, 15 miles just getting back to the charging station is lost. So initially, we probably would consider, if we were to get to, we probably would consider, because the charging station would be in this area, using them for town of Luray and probably Luray to tech center, maybe some in-county field trips, things of that nature. If it worked well, then we would be open-minded to see what else could we do, and could we get a charging unit in Stanley? Could we get a charging unit in Shenandoah? Our terrain probably does not lend itself well to saying down the road under current battery structure, could we have a fleet? Probably not, because of the nature of the routes we have to run and the terrain and the pull on the motors. But more to learn on that, quite honestly. We're talking right now about 2. We looked at cost here. I mentioned how much it would cost. It would, we estimate an annual cost in charging would be about $1,000 of electricity on the 3-phase electric. Currently, we're spending approximately $5 a gallon on diesel. We looked at the fuel tank size of the buses, and we probably are $8,000 to $10,000, even higher in some of the older buses, in fuel alone. And that does, of course, we wouldn't have oil changes either, so we would eliminate those. We've got some work still to do to explore battery life and how long they would last. What I would pose to you tonight is that we're in the phase where we need to apply. And if we don't, we're gonna miss the opportunity. The question that I asked was, can we withdraw? And we can. Through the application process, we can do our homework, we could submit the paperwork, and we could stay in it all the way to the award amount, where we find out actually how many dollars would you give us towards these buses versus the actual cost of the buses, and is this $25,000 that we estimate out of pocket, is that accurate? And if it were not, we could come back to you all and say, we probably need to withdraw from this before we spend any money. So we looked at risk versus reward. Short local runs probably be very helpful, and to have, as Corey said and Diana, to get 2 new buses, anytime they can get their hands on new buses, they say please. The salesman was honest. He said that a lot of local rural counties are not in this process yet, but Corey has reached out and has determined that Waynesboro does have an electric bus at this point. I think it's going fairly well for them. So we would estimate that this, if it was accurate, that we would only be out of pocket about $25,000. We would recover that within 2 years probably, and then we're sitting on brand new buses basically. That's what we have in that.
Stanton City.
Do they?
That's
Okay.
something. Thing, or, no,
Gotcha. So we would like to pursue next week the beginning of just the paperwork side of things. Again, no commitment, no finances laid out, just securing our place in the process is what we would like to do.
Are you asking for our approval?
I don't think we need approval right now. We just want you to be aware that we're going to go ahead and submit unless there's a
Okay.
huge objection from you all because there's no risk right now to submit and continue to do our homework. If at some point, like he said, we feel like the risk is too high, we can withdraw.
I think the
So we'll keep you
approval,
updated.
the approval would come when we have to come to you and say, we need to spend some money. And that's that point. But we want you to know what we're doing ahead of time, yeah.
Why not?
if we could get 2 new buses for $25K, probably, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Aside from all the other benefits of environmental benefits, they're awesome. And the fact that it would be like a demo project. So,
I think it's great PR for us as well to show that we're concerned about the environmental side of this thing.
So what if you apply for the grant and you get it, and then we're lucky to get 30 miles off the charge? Do you have to commit to keep it for so long, or can you then sell it?
5 years,
5.
yeah. Good question, yeah.
but I
So
think,
what, we can verify with Waynesboro.
I was going to say,
right?
that exists. That's already
There
happened.
is data.
Okay, all right.
Just wondering.
Now, the bus garage, just to go back to that, so the bus garage, from what I understand, we have to order custom length buses because of
They won't
the-
fit.
They won't fit in the
So I
garage.
asked this question of Corey to make sure these are the same model buses that we currently have, so they would fit.
They would fit.
Yeah, Corey told me that these are the same 71 passenger buses that we're running now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And does anybody there know how to work on them?
Well, the electric side, probably not at this point. I mean, the general maintenance, yes, wheel balancing and those sorts
Yeah.
of things, brakes, that kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, why not? I mean, who's to say you even get it?
We're gonna be optimistic.
Yeah, we're gonna. 'Cause nobody else wants to apply.
We're gonna pilot it in a rural area.
Yeah.
It seems like Stanley would be a good place too, Stanley Elementary. It's kind of flat.
Yeah.
Through there, not as many.
Right.
Tanner's Ridge. You know, where I-
I'm not talking about that.
And after,
back
there
is
would be,
different.
there would definitely be more discussion if we found we were getting them, what is the best location?
Right.
Again, the issue is distance from the charging.
Charging station,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that
Thanks for
research.
doing
It's
that.
awesome.
Ms. Ryman, instructional update?
Board members. So a couple days ago, you got a little preliminary look at some things. As I've mentioned before, the accountability timeline has since been updated since we last met again, but I don't see that making any big differences in how we go about sharing information with you. So we're still anticipating that on August 18th, the public release of data will go.
That's fine.
So the public release of the data, the statewide, the division, the school by school will come out. And in that then will be where you'll see like the raw data. Remember we talked a little bit about the difference between raw data and the accreditation data. So what we wanted to do this evening was give you a little taste of each of those, what that's going to look like, and that's what that little look you had before was. I did go in today and look at those current reports because they do update relatively. You've got to pay attention to them. So once a week I try to do that, and there was a minor change on one piece of information. So when we get there and we start looking at that, I just wanted to remind you also about that growth measure and those factors that play into that WIDA access for ELS test, the fall growth assessment, and then the look back at the spring 2021. Number 3. So again, raw versus accreditation data will be a little different. When that public release comes out on the 18th, that's where those differences in those two tabs will be when people go to the school quality profile. So let's start with English. Take a look there. So the best way I thought to organize this for you this evening, to give you a taste of what that raw data more or less will look like, but then the looking ahead and still thinking about accreditation is the second column there that just says pass rate is more or less what we think of when we think of that raw data, straight passes. So in English, now this includes reading and writing, and our goal is always to just hit that benchmark, that 75% right there, right? But the state does have those different ways of meeting the growth. So the percentage in the second column shows the percentage that's counting towards growth for the final column, which is what looks like will be our actual rate that will be used to determine accreditation. Okay. Now, another piece that's important to understand here is this information is purely from last year. You'll remember when we looked at some of those accreditation reports when we met with building administrators before, the 3-year average is looked at, did you reduce by 10%? It didn't involve any of that yet this evening. So for example, let me take there at Page County Middle where it says 71.07. That might not be the rate that's actually used to determine the final accreditation because perhaps when they put the 3-year average in, that will be a higher number. I just wanted you to get a solid look at this past year. And then, of course, we'll get subgroups broken down and all of that as well. Let me go to the next one, please, from math. I'm sorry, go
Just
ahead.
a question. So
Yes. Mhm.
Have you looked at some of those numbers and just asked the question for you as a new person coming in? What's working and what's not working?
Hold on a second. Yes, of course. But again, when we met the other week and we're talking about looking at that older data, now we're looking at data that's a result of a couple of years, again, not excuses, but everybody across the state's going to be looking at data that's the result of interrupted instruction for the last couple of years. So we have to consider that, right? But at the same time, we have to go, okay, that being said, what's the next steps moving forward?
Yeah, I just look at the variability in the numbers
Yes.
from school to school.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. And again, there could be lots of factors that contribute to that as well, right? When you look at the middle school, keep in mind that writing is a part of that, but it's not at the elementary level, right? We have our 8th grade writing test. When you look at high school, writing's not incorporated there because in Page we do the locally developed assessment for writing. So we have to tease that part out and think through those factors. We've been talking about new teachers. And when you have differences in staff, you also have to consider that and go, okay, so maybe this school needs a little more support because it's a little more inexperienced staff, or all of those pieces have to weigh into that
Yeah, because
conversation.
turnover is a big deal. I mean,
Yes,
I'm looking at
certainly.
schools, and I can say turnover is one of the number one factors, for sure. I would think.
Sure.
Possibly.
Definitely one to consider.
Yeah.
Okay, so for math, once we get to math, the benchmark is 70% at the state level for accreditation, okay? So once again, you've more or less got the raw in that first column, what you're going to see by either growth or recovery, and then what we're preliminarily looking at towards this year with all those accreditation factors, those growth factors. The one that, let me look at my notes. When I looked in these today, because I did make adjustments from what you saw earlier. English had a bump, Luray Middle School did. They, for whatever reason, there were some additional credits for growth there. And Luray Middle School's math also bumped up a little bit from what we were looking at a couple of weeks ago, as well as did Shenandoah Elementary's math. So another thing I'll tell you, preliminary conversations with principals is, they've seen this, they've seen their own, they've talked with each other. So when one is having, say, an improvement or a higher pass rate in math than another, they're already talking to each other, going, okay, what can we do? How can we have our teachers work together to help address this? And that's what we want. That's the kind of conversations we want to have.
And actually, if you would you explain the content PD that we just did?
Absolutely,
'Cause I think
yes.
that would be critical here.
Sure. So over the last 2 days, as part of our division PD, one of the sessions that Dr. Fox and I led was we would get everybody together, say, take all the middle school teachers, for example, talk to them a little bit about what we want, what the goals are for that particular session, and then we let them break out into math, into history, into related arts, into PE. And part of what we asked them to do was, let's talk about the things that we've been doing well and how can we keep that going? What are the things that, Dr. Johnson might be teaching down the hall for me and he's knocking it out of the park with this particular skill? What can I learn from him? Share ideas, talk about what data is important, because you can get inundated with data, and that's something you have to work through as well. And then from their perspective, what professional learning do they need? What resources do they need so we can start to address and meet those needs? And it's been very good. Dr. Fox and I have both noted that, we've tried to step away because we wanted them to be able to have really organic conversations without us there. But you can hear and that they're having good quality
I haven't
conversations.
told Dr. Fox or Ms. Ryan this, but I was standing next to the middle school page in Laredo when the math department meeting ended. One of the most veteran lead math teachers for our middle school group walked away and said, that was one of the best math meetings I've ever.
That's good.
Good.
That's good. That's what we need to improve.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
gotta happen.
that was good
Yep.
to
But
hear.
I want to thank them because
Yes,
we
absolutely.
started it off and said, what you put into this today is what you're going to get out of it. And they really put their effort and energy into it, and we just appreciate that
And
so
these
much.
are all grade levels, like in the middle school.
Every single
Yes.
teacher has
See,
gone
that
through it.
helps prepare for the next level. Here's what skills they need before they get to this level.
Yes,
You know, algebra 1 or whatever.
that's right.
It's great. Good job.
So that's been good. Thank you for sharing.
And you feel, I mean, some of these numbers, you got to, like I take, say Lorraine Middle, the feeder schools into that.
Correct.
You feel that has, the learning has been sustained? That's the kind of questions you want to ask, right?
Sure.
And what, you know, if not, then why is that? You know, so.
Because like we said before, like take that example. There may have been, if there was a middle schooler at Lorraine, 6th grade, took a math test. The last time they took a test was when they were maybe 4th, 5th grade or before that, right, at the elementary school. So,
Yeah.
So when the new school quality profiles show up,
yes.
it might be helpful to show that to everybody because like,
Oh, yes.
it even shows like the teacher quality thing. It tells you what percent inexperienced teachers you have, which, I mean, looking at this, if you don't know how the whole big picture works, you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
what are they
that's
doing
right.
there? But it's so many factors that pile into it.
Well, class sizes, I mean, everything.
Well, and you look at absences last year,
That's
you know,
right.
if we look
Yeah,
at
but
Lorraine
those are
Elementary, you're
chronic
gonna see.
We're gonna talk
there are
about
a
that.
lot of
Yeah.
absences, you know, and those are not excuses.
No.
But they're all pieces that play into where you are at this point in time. And remember, this is a test on one day and one point of time.
So
You know,
it kind of falls into it. Did each of the schools now use all their data to do like their own little comprehensive needs assessment and talk about their strengths and weaknesses and where they need to?
And that's one of the things, yes, but one of the things we want to continue working on and doing with them to dig into that and actually see where those are.
And has it been communicated that there's going to be, because you want to understand why something happens, but you're going to spend a lot more time at the level, what I consider level 1, with the teachers yourself, right?
Yes, yes, that was one of the things we shared with them during that content level meeting.
Good,
You know,
'cause they
we'll be
need to-
out and about. We'll be in your classroom. Please don't take that as, oh my, why are they
Right,
here? We
right.
genuinely just want to be involved, be with you, talk to
We're here
you,
to
see the
support you,
students in
not-
action. Exactly. Yes.
And will they do this type of gathering later on in the year, like end of the semester or something of that nature?
yeah, we've got our 2 professional development days. One's in September and one's in October. We're gonna plan to do some more of these with some, maybe a little bit more of the vertical conversations that you're talking about, where 5th grade gets with 6th grade and 8th grade gets with 9th grade. But further on in the year, we'll have to find places to do it at the school level because we don't have those PD days built in. But yeah, our goal is to make this self-sustaining, that we don't have to lead these conversations. They just naturally happen because this is how we talk about instruction.
And, you know, today they were doing that just more or less off the cuff, if you will. You know, in the future, when they've given a common assessment and they can sit down and have that, then that becomes an even more, a richer conversation because you've got something hard in front of you.
I'm excited to see this. I know you probably are too. If we can just deal with less nonsense from people and focus on this, will make a difference.
Well, the fact that today we could have conversations about instruction. You know, somebody asked, because her first question in the session was, what are you most excited about? And somebody asked me, and I said, this is what's exciting, is there's a genuine feeling that we're doing the things we're supposed to do. We're talking about the things we're supposed to talk about, not necessarily masks and
Moldy bread.
absences and
Whatever.
things.
Think nonsense.
Things. So that's exciting. And I think that was felt, you know, and they were excited to hear about discipline and how it makes sense in classroom management. You can't instruct unless you have the kids behaving in class and engaged in class. So it's exciting to be having these conversations for sure.
And speaking of sharing compliments, that was mentioned too about the student conduct and discipline sessions and the hard work that went into that. So, all right, so science. Let's take a look at science. So again, here, science, the benchmark is 70%. Remember, there's no growth measures for science. And again, we had mentioned the other week that, okay, the new science standards were field tested this past year. I think, I can't say that for a fact, but I feel pretty confident that across the state, you're going to have noticed a significant dip in science scores. And then I just wanted to mention too, we have to think about the small numbers involved here. Because at all the elementary schools, the only science test given is at grade 5. So it's one grade level. Middle school's just 8th grade. And then at the high schools, primarily biology is the biggest one. You might have some chemistry here. But again, those conversations have already happened as well. I know I've had a conversation with administrators about their plan for addressing some of these needs in particular content and how they're going to work through that with folks in mind.
Yeah, making sure that everything up to 5th grade gets taught because it's considered
Right.
background knowledge.
Yes.
Because if you teach your science and social studies, that's what happens.
Yes.
What was very challenging about this, needs to think on for a moment. So the grade 8 test was given last spring. Think about those students, the last time they had a test was in 5th grade. So in 6th grade, they had a normal school year until April. And then COVID hit. From that point on, they did not have an uninterrupted school year until the second test.
Which was cumulative then on all that.
Yep. But yes, some are high and some are
Yeah.
a lot of improvements.
It varies.
Well, like with chemistry, we got math involved. Algebra 2 and that kind of thing, and all that goes together. So that pulls those two in to work together.
Okay, and then I put some history data in here, but I want to make sure make this clear. You remember we talked about the CIP cohort that we're part of. This is where I pulled that data from because the state isn't going to report that on accreditation pieces simply because it's not part of accreditation anymore. But it's still obviously very important, very valid. So I thought it was important to look at that. So with the cohort that we participate in based on our SOL scores, this is the rough raw data based on for history. So again, at elementary school, that's only 4th grade Virginia studies. At the middle school, that's only 8th grade civics and economics. And then the high school, a little variety, primarily world history 1, some U.S. history. But, even though it's not part of accreditation, our students still need verified credits at the high school level in history. So it's significant for that. And then the last piece of data I have for you is that chronic absenteeism. Again, point out this is not part of accreditation this year because, again, everyone saw a lot of challenges with this, with the absences due to COVID, quarantines, all of that. In order to actually meet that level 1 requirement, when this is part of accreditation, it's supposed to be at 15% or lower. So having that number in your head helps for perspective.
So right now, everybody's yellow or red.
Correct.
And not green.
And this
You
is
want
one of
green.
those that the higher the number is not something to set, right? You want it as low as possible. So we're
Agreed.
going the opposite direction. And then for perspective, I went back and looked at 1819 before we had disruptions. In Page County, schools ranged from 6.55 to 21.59%. So that gives you a taste of what it was before, to know what we're really dealing with, because these numbers are elevated, obviously. But that's something that everyone will, I think it's important for everyone to see this too, because this is so important when we talk about conduct and talking with families and talking to the community, that this is a factor that our schools are evaluated on. And it really does take a whole team effort on this one. And then lastly, I think I just had a couple items I wanted to mention. So we've already talked a little bit. Okay, so here it is. What are we going to do? So as mentioned, we're going to be disaggregating that data to look at our instructional practices. Are they aligned? The PD piece, cross grade level, within grade level conversations, much like what happened today. And just not letting up on that. We have to continuously review and continuously monitor and make adjustments because we might try something, it's not effective. So you have to go back to the table and try again. And then as Mr. Painter, as you mentioned a little bit ago, scheduling that time to be together and visit classrooms is key. So yeah, we're still quite excited and we'll see how all this plays out and as it continues to unfold, but that's where we are at this point.
Thank you.
Have any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're definitely. That's not my desktop. I have 3 screens.
Okay.
So that's
Dr. Fox, I believe you are up with the superintendent's update. As soon as it back up.
I don't have a long one for you this evening, but
Really?
yeah, thought about you. Thank you, Ms. Greenwell. So just wanted to just piggyback on some of what we've already talked about, and just I think there is a palpable excitement in the air. I think even though it's been a long week, it's been an exciting week, and we're looking to cap it off tomorrow with our convocation. But we did have, as Dr. Johnson mentioned, our new teacher orientation on Monday and Tuesday. We had the professional development that ran yesterday afternoon and through today. And we've just given you a sample of some of those sessions that our staff attended, Promethean and Tech Tips and Benchmark Advance for our elementary staff. Our instructional aides had asked us for some additional training last year on the MANT. So we walked them through the first part of that and talking about how you maybe work with kids if they're getting agitated, how you settle them down a little bit, some de-escalation strategies, student conduct and discipline, special education, 504 updates and information, and then the content and grade level meeting. So we also had training for transportation staff today, and then our food services will have their training tomorrow. And we just want to say thank you to LHS and PCHS for hosting us for all of this, because we essentially take over their buildings while we do this. And so it's extra work for the staff. So we just want to say thank you for that. And we also want to thank our staff who prepared and presented information, as well as all of our teachers who participated. Everybody did what they were supposed to do. So we're grateful for that. Just, excuse me, a quick COVID update. It's not looking so hot. The picture on the left is from when we met last at the end of July. And this is the CDC community transmission. Now you can see that the majority of the state's gone back to red, which puts us in the high zone. So it's just spreading more, and so we will feel some of those impacts in schools. We'll have some absences, but we're hoping it's not going to be anywhere near what it was last year. We will keep our eyes and ears on it. And we have information that will be coming out to faculty, staff, and parents again next week about COVID and, what our expectations are in terms of masks and all that stuff. So that'll be coming shortly. Wanted to start around this time last year. We started giving you all some enrollment updates as to where we stand. Right now, as of today, based on, if you recall, we set our budget. If you remember, I went a little conservative with 2986. So right now we're about 54 students under, and that's not a bad. I looked at where we were last year at this time. We were about 100 students under. So not a bad place to be. We know that there's some kids who haven't come and enrolled yet. We know that there's some folks who have enrolled and they haven't shifted over to Power School yet. So not a bad place to be. We'll keep updating you on it as we proceed, but I would, if there's anybody listening out there and they haven't enrolled their child, come on and go ahead and get them in, and let's get them ready so they have a smooth start on the first day of school. And then just want to keep pressing this because we need this to happen. We've sent out our initial communications about parent portal, but we just want to remind all of our parents and guardians that they'll need to activate their parent portal accounts for all of those reasons: grades, attendance information. They're going to be signing all of those forms for us. We're going to be sending report cards electronically this year through the parent portal. They can review and update some of their demographic information. They do have to get their access code from the school, so they'll need to call the school, or they can come to the orientations this week on Wednesday and Thursday. Schools are ready. They're going to have computers. They're going to have staff there. They'll have the access codes, so a parent can walk in. They'll have someone guide them through the process, and they'll instantly be in the parent portal. So if they have questions at this point about any of it, we encourage them either to go to our webpage where all of the documents are listed, or just call their child's school, and they'll walk them through the process. So we're excited. Principals are keeping an eye, and those numbers are going down, but we want to get them obviously down to 100% and 0 people not having activated their accounts. So, and then just finally, last couple little, we've been doing this slide for the last couple of weeks. We're almost there. Tomorrow is our convocation at 8:30 tomorrow morning. We're looking forward to that. And then next week are our parent and student orientations at the schools. And believe it or not, school starts on the 22nd. So we're here, we're back, and we're ready. So that's my update for you guys this evening. Do you have any questions that I can answer for you?
The convocation's at
Page County High School, 8:30. Breakfast is at 7:30. Should you need something.
okay.
Don't be late.
That's it.
Well, this is good information,
Mhm.
and it's probably as solid as I've ever seen it, and I really appreciate it.
Really? It's just, that's saying something.
Fantastic team, a lot of hard work here and in the buildings as well. So, a lot of great people working very hard right now.
Thank you, Dr.
You're
Fox.
welcome.
Ms. Greenwald?
We have 2 readings with exemptions, one for student A.
Mr. Chairperson, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the religious exemptions for student A and B.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Gubler and a second by Mr. Painter to approve the religious exemption request for student A and B.
Mr. Gubler.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes,
Yes. Ms. Seacrest, claims for payment?
Yes, good evening, and board. You all have been provided with the claim certification this evening, where the Fund 1 operating fund was $1,110,068.17. You can see this also has a Fund 2 capital improvement plan fund on it that we had established for that state money this year, and that expenditure is $55,804. Food service fund of $9,361.78 for total expenditures of $1,175,233.95. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer that. We've also been provided with a list of claims as well as the check record.
Make a motion that we approve the claims for payment as presented.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Painter to approve the claims for payment as presented.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Gubler.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
yes.
Yeah. Dr. Johnson, VSBA policy updates?
Yes, at the last meeting, again, we brought some policies before you and did a first run through to explain the changes and amendments that would have occurred with those policies. And so tonight, we ask for your approval so we can update the policy manual.
Make a motion that we approve the VSBA policy updates.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Gubler to approve the VSBA policy updates.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Gubler.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Fox, approval of new policy GAC.
Yeah, so tonight at Bring, we reviewed this last time and asking for your approval tonight of the digital communications policy. We've made a couple of adjustments. One was a request about refraining from accessing or posting to social media accounts during work hours. So we've added that in there, and then just a couple of little minor adjustments to it, but we are asking for you to approve this tonight for us.
Make a motion that we approve new policy GAC and retire policy GAB/IIBEC.
Second. We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve new policy GAC and retire GAB/IIBEC.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Gubler.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes. Yes. Dr. Fox, new policy GBC.
Yes, so thank you again. We're asking you to approve the staff responsibilities, conduct, and dress code, which is GBC. Tonight, again, nothing major from the last time you looked at it, just a couple of minor revisions, but we'd ask you to approve this one for us tonight as well.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the staff responsibilities, conduct, and dress code, GBC, as presented tonight.
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Mr. Gubler to approve new policy GBC.
Yes.
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 Yes. Board member discussion time?
I just want to say, wow, job well done. And as school opens on the 22nd, I'm hoping for good health, good weather. I think the excitement is already in the air by things that have happened already at each school, and they're happening this evening as time goes on. And I can't say enough to everybody who was involved in the whole process. I don't know where summer went, but it sure did go quickly. And, you know, it'll be winter and then the end of the year. It all goes by so fast, but I don't think there's any question that everybody took their part seriously and really put forth effort. It took time, but you did it. Thank you so much.
Well, I would encourage, I echo her sentiment there, and it's exciting to see what's happening. And I give Dr. Fox a lot of credit for that. She's done everything we've asked her to do as far as reaching down to the different levels and getting everybody engaged. There's a lot of work to be done. There'll be a lot of work to do as well as we go into it. I would encourage communication on these visits to make sure that everybody's understanding that we're trying to give our students the best education we can with what we have. I think our school system's done well in the past, and I think we can do even better in the future with what the team you got together right now. I think it's a good thing. Now we just need consistency and improvement, and that includes on the board as well. So if we can do that, I think we're going to have a good year.
What are you trying to say, Dwayne?
That we need to be consistent or improve.
I think everybody has to do their part. That's what I'm saying. Parents have to do their part, students, admin, and this board needs to do their part.
Well, I will do my part by giving a shout out to the people that usually make everything fall into place and make everything look beautiful for the orientations and things, and that be the custodians, because it is their tax season come the summer, because it is on them to get everything clean, tip-top shape and make it look nice. So I know I always really appreciate my custodial staff, so we appreciate what Pages does as well.
And the buildings look good. I mean, everything's shiny and looks fresh. So it's nice.
All right, well, yes, thank you all. I mean, everything everybody said, thank you, everybody, and it is exciting. I think you can feel the excitement, and I know, Dr. Fox, you thank your team a lot, but teams only really take on the attitude of their leader, so good job.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Painter to adjourn.
Yes.
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 Yes.